Hello everyone, my name's Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at a topic that's been on my mind recently, and that is the idea of staple cards, what they mean, and how the Digimon card game treats them, just because Digimon is a completely different game than most other TCGs on the market, and we do have to treat staple cards a little bit differently compared to some others, and our approach to them. But first, let's start off by simply defining what a staple card is, so we have a base or foundation to be able to work off of. So the simplest definition of a staple card is that it is a strong and versatile card that can be incorporated into many decks. So it's just a really highly usable card that a lot of decks potentially want. But when is it appropriate to actually use a staple card? The funny thing enough is, with the Digimon card game, staples are not useful all of the time. The way I like to think of them is they're just more filler cards in case you don't have a better card that you would want to play that's in line or in archetype with what the deck is actually trying to do. So they're just good for extra space to buffer out what the deck is trying to do, and if a filler is able to, well, fit that role. But staple cards are always good cards to think about nonetheless, as just good generic cards on their own. So when it comes to the different types of staples, I like to break it up by defining them or categorizing them based on, well, the card type that they're going to be representing. So as far as good staple Digimon cards, these are going to be your Floodgates, Security Digimon, Hybrids, Level 7s, and various other good cards in their own right. When it comes to options, we have good removal options, tech options, and a lot of options with the delay ability that also have a wide variety of uses. Then when it comes to tamers, we have memory fixing tamers and we have tech tamers, and digitamas, we have digitamas that want to help us draw cards and do various other things. And then on top of that, we even have archetype combos, which are cards that are basically staples when they're paired up with each other, and each archetype generally has its own set of staples that it wants to play if you're playing said archetype. So starting off with the Digimon, we have Floodgates. So Floodgates are always a very popular choice because they help disrupt what the opponent is potentially trying to do, especially if you have room to fit them in, just because that level of disruption, if the opponent isn't able to play around it, really could slow them down and put them off of their game plan enough so that way you could try to accelerate your game plan, because these cards are putting the opponent off of theirs, and there's a wide variety of different Floodgates that you could think about utilizing. Then when it comes to security Digimon, these are Digimon that actually have security effects, so when they're checked in security, something is going to be happening. Then when it comes to hybrid Digimon, these are going to be the Digimon that are able to digivolve on top of your tamers, and this just adds extra usability for your tamers and allows you to have different alternative lines of play depending on how you're trying to incorporate said hybrid, whether it's just to try to start an extra line of evolution or to be able to get an extra sneak attack in for the game. It's just a very versatile style of card for you to think about utilizing for a wide variety of decks. And then when it comes to just good Digimon cards, these are good cards that have just very standard abilities that can just work with basically anything because of how generic and good that they are. So level 7s are their own type of category because they always have a lot of really good usability, but more specifically with the examples down below are ones in each of the different colors that have their own levels of generic usability based on what you're trying to actually gain out of the deck. Then when it comes to options, we have removal options. So removal is always an important aspect to any card game, having the ability to deal with the opponent's threats, and we have a wide variety of different cards that have a wide variety of different abilities to potentially remove the opponent's threats from the field that any deck could realistically think about incorporating. Then we have tech options. So these are options that are not specifically designated towards removal, but specifically trying to do something else that's going to help progress what you're trying to do, whether it's going to be adding a buff to your Digimon, making evolution cheaper, having various other abilities to play various other Digimon, or accelerating some alternative game plan. When it comes to various other options, there are a ton of good options that we could pick from that have the delay ability. So the delay ability is its own type of thing where you're going to be utilizing the card at a later turn after you utilize its initial ability. The best options with the delay ability are going to be the memory boosts, and eventually when we get them in BT14, the training cards as well. But there's still just a whole bunch of other options with the delay ability that you could think about utilizing, just because the delay ability adds an extra layer or level of usability onto the option to do various different things. Then when it comes to memory fixing tamers, obviously you want to have them have as good and generic of an ability as you possibly can to try to take advantage of them with their secondary ability, but the primary ability to utilizing these cards is the fact that you're not going to be memory choked and memory starved, and you're always going to be starting your turn at 3 memory no matter what. And there's a plethora of different ones for us to choose from depending on what your deck is actually trying to do, where the second ability may come in handy a little bit more than others. Then when it comes to various other tech tamers, these are tamers that basically aren't necessarily memory tamers. They could help you gain some memory, but they're just there to help with the overall flow and functionality of what the deck is trying to do. So some various other tech tamers could be memory fixing tamers, just because you could run 2 completely different memory fixing tamers just because of that secondary tech ability for you to want to try to utilize and incentivize you utilizing. But most of the time, the reason why you're using these cards is just as an extra engine piece to accelerate your game plan. Then, when it comes to the Digitamas, we have draw Digitamas. So, drawing is a really powerful mechanic that just helps accelerate not only just the consistency of the deck, but making sure we could try to find the parts and pieces when we need to, and the fact that each of the colors has a different way for us to utilize their draw power just makes these Digitamas super desirable, so that way we can always try to have as much efficiency as we possibly can. Then, when it comes to the Digitamas, we have Tech Digitamas, which are basically doing anything else but drawing us cards. These have a wide variety of different uses, such as DP boosting, increasing the range of certain abilities, helping us gain some memory in various ways, shape, or forms, or just adding extra abilities to the cards. It all really just depends on what your deck wants and the Digitama that you want to try to use to best utilize them. Then, when it comes to archetype combo staples, realistically, these are 2 to 3 card combos that don't take up a whole lot of space. As long as the deck has enough space to be able to incorporate them, they usually are very highly synergistic with each other, so you could try to optimize on their efficiency with whatever other cards that the deck is actually trying to be playing around with. And then the big one is archetypes have their own set of staples. So this kind of is where a lot of Digimon just is made easy, because Digimon is an archetype-based game. So a lot of the time, you're just going to want to stick the cards that play and synergize well with each other together, and that's going to end up being the vast majority of the deck. You do have some leeways, especially when you get more tools for a specific archetype, in terms of the type of tools that you want to be running and incorporating, and that's why the more an archetype is supported, the better it generally is at having just a whole bunch of different cards that you could think about utilizing. But as far as what the majority of Digimon is when it comes to archetype-based decks, most of the time you're going to want to stick in line and in engine, and in that line and engine, you're going to have specific cards that you're going to want to play over others. So, in conclusion, staples are cards that are just generically good that any deck could think about utilizing. But do decks actually want to utilize them is the real question, and that'll vary from deck to deck, and because of how Digimon is designed, not all decks actually have room or want to utilize staples, just because they have more synergistic cards that are in package, in line, or inside of the mechanic that the deck is going to want to play with over some staples. I generally like to think of these types of cards as always good cards to think about and incorporate into a deck that that has enough space to run them, but for the most part, if you don't have enough space to run them, they're just going to be delegated more towards the tech or filler category rather than just hardcore staples. Your deck actually needs them, and I think that's the big difference between Digimon and its staples versus other card games and their staples, is the fact that we're not super reliant on these generic cards acting as the bulk and majority of the deck compared to other card games. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.